Okay, welcome to my shop. I just kind of did this on a whim here at the last minute. I've been making some videos on one of my projects, which is a Morse Code Key, and I thought while I'm out here maybe I'll just do a shop tour. It's in our 24 by 30 foot garage, which is attached to the house. As you can see, the wife's car. That's one of the requirements for having my wood shop out here, is she's supposed to be able to get her car in here, which she can. The nice thing about that, if I need more space, I can always pull it outside. So just to give you a real quick tour here, this is an old drill press that we bought on the farm in the 1980s. And it's chugged away all these years and still working. I made a little base for it there. There's my grinder and my polishing bench that I use for polishing brass. And I have now my shop is not clean, okay? I've been using it. There's sawdust all over. There's junk all over. And I see some of these shop tours on YouTube where it looks like you could eat off of the floor. I don't know if those guys ever use the shops or not, or if they just set them up and go out and look at them because they're so nice and clean but ever use them. But anyway, I use mine, and that's my mini mill. I use it for both wood and brass when making the Morse Code keys. And over here I built these cabinets. Here's a mini lathe that I use for making stuff and storage and bolts and nuts. And another mini lathe. I bought this one and kind of used it heavily and had to rebuild it. So while I was rebuilding it, I bought the newer one so I could keep going. And now I'm glad I've got both of them. I don't know how I ever got along with just one. But at any rate, that's kind of a little corner here that I use for lots of stuff. There's my power box, which is handy to have in your shop, by the way. I've got a 14-inch band saw that I bought quite some time ago. Made in Taiwan, does the job. And I'll show you my newest acquisition here shortly related to this. Here's more storage. I use this for my drills and stuff, glue. Got some storage there. Here's a wooden toolbox that I built many years ago. That was one of my first projects after I got into woodworking. I'm kind of proud of that. I have a jet lathe that I use occasionally. You can see down here bags of cement that I use to weight down the lathe, and it works pretty good. I also use those on my bandsaw. Here's my workbench that I built some time ago. It's kind of small. This is a sanding table here that I can take off if I need to. I've just got it attached with the vices on the end. And I build boxes, and then when I cut off the tops of the boxes, I can use that to get it all smooth and make it fit. And that's probably cost me a couple of bucks to build that, and it's probably one of the handiest tools in my shop. Here's my table saw that I've added some stuff to give me a little more workspace. That is a DeWalt 746 woodworker's saw that I bought, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago maybe. And I added a couple of stamped steel wings to it, and the cast iron wing over here, and a little bit more. It's too bad DeWalt quit making those because I really like this saw. And it's not a unisaw, but you know what? It does a good job for me. If I had it to do over again, I'd buy another one if they were available. I have some a little mobile bench there I can move around, a little wood storage, and I keep sheets of thick paper down here for putting on the workbench, for using to glue on, so I can keep the workbench fairly clean. Here's my latest acquisition, a Grizzly 17-inch bandsaw. I've got a 1-inch resaw blade in it, and I'll just leave that in there, and I use my other 14-inch bandsaw for smaller cuts with a 1/4-inch blade. If I can get over here, here's a sander. That's on wheels. All my bandsaw's on wheels also, so I can move it out to do some serious cutting. That's on wheels. I've got my rigid sander. That's not on wheels, but it's not that difficult to move if I have to. I've got a Craig router table that I added a switch to and some bit storage and stuff. Up here is my propane heater for in the winter. Our garage, it's 24 foot by 30 foot. It is insulated, along with insulated doors, so it's fairly easy to keep warm. And that little heater there will run you out. I've got a 100-gallon propane tank outside that I feed that with, and I'm real happy with that. That is my universal laser engraver. It's a 75 watt. That is very, very handy. And that's my control center for it. That's my air outtake and my air for cutting thick material and such. Over here, that's my Tormek sharpener, and I've got this tool here is the first woodworking tool I ever bought. It's a Craftsman scroll saw, and I picked up a Hawk scroll saw a while back, and so when I did that, I started buying these little sanding strips for this unit, so I use it to sand small parts, and it's really handy. Again, here's my laser engraver. Here is my Bosch compound miter saw, and I built a table for it. Works really good, have no complaints at all. If I had it to do over again, I would buy a sliding compound miter saw to cut a little bit wider boards. And I've been looking at them online. I may invest in one sometime. I've got my shop vac under there, and I've got it set up here so that I can turn the tools on and off, and I can move the shop vac hose from tool to tool for dust control. Works pretty good. There's my DeWalt planer, and here is my Hawk scroll saw. I have to admit I don't use that very often, but it's one of those tools that when you need it, that's all that'll work for cutting inside holes and such. And then I just put in some storage here, which is already full, and I've got hiding behind here that I don't use real often is an old Craftsman planer. That's one of the old timers. I kind of worked it over, and it comes in really handy. Like I say, you don't use it every day, but when you need it, that's all that'll work. And I got a little bit of wood storage up overhead here, but most of my wood storage is out in an adjacent shed that I just bought. So that's when I was able to kind of clean up the shop, get some stuff out of here, and make a little more room, and found that I had room for a new bandsaw. So, you know, you can't have any empty space in a shop. It's either got to be filled with junk or tools, one or the other. So that is a real quick tour of my shop. Here, it's again, it's a 24 by 30. When we had it built, I built a little oversized. For this reason, I could fit the car in here and all my tools. Of course, that'd be nice if I had a bigger one, but if it's bigger, you just fill it up with more junk. So that's it. Thanks for watching.